Purpose, a caring approach to business. Welcome, everybody!
The essence of a gift is that it creates a set of relationships. The currency of a gift economy is, at its root, reciprocity. The words of the ever-wonderful Ross Gay. Welcome to Pollinating Purpose, a caring approach to business by Pillar Nonprofit Network. I am your host and longtime locavore, Mariam Waliji. I also act as the Vice President of Equity, Impact, and Governance here at Pillar, and was the former Social Enterprise Program Manager and Coach. For those of you who are new here, Pollinating Purpose is a show all about supporting organizations who seek to create social impact through their work. Whether nonprofit, for-profit, or grassroots organizations, you'll learn key considerations to starting or growing your social purpose business in a long-term and sustainable way. Today, I am just pleased to share that we will be sitting down with a former colleague and current friend, Lindsay McDermott. Lindsay is a senior-level fundraiser with a passion for local community building, collaboration, and a human-centered approach to partnerships. For over 15 years, Lindsay has been supporting local, regional, and national charities to reach and exceed development goals through a variety of channels, including major gifts, events, strategic communications, and annual campaigns. Lindsay is currently leading a $10 million capital campaign at Humane Society London and Middlesex to construct a comprehensive new animal campus. All of this is wildly impressive and doesn't even begin to capture the warmth and care that it is being around Lindsay. She is brilliant at what she does, but she also has a powerful way of holding relationships that make her approach to fundraising so unique. Welcome, Lindsay.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Of course. I am very excited about this conversation because there's always, one of the biggest things folks ask about is around that fundraising in whatever sort of capacity. Very interested to chat with you about what you do.
Awesome.
So when we get into it, as much as I would like to believe you spend your days just with puppies and dogs and hanging out, I know that's not true. So can you?
I'd love to do that as well.
Wouldn't we all? Can you share a little bit about your experience in fundraising and the work that you're doing with the Humane Society?
Yes, of course. So I started my career about 15 years ago. I think, like a lot of fundraisers, they might say they fell into the industry. It was certainly something that I was really passionate about volunteering, and I've done that my whole life. And then when I learned that I could also work in this field, it just was like, wow. I know what I want to do.
Yeah.
In terms of actual fundraising, I was getting started in Toronto and just doing some really great volunteering for an organization I loved. And then that just kind of snowballed into my first role. Did a little bit of education around it as well. And from there, I've just built my experience working with, national organizations, regional, and local organizations. I'd say that's really kind of my sweet spot in terms of really seeing the impact of the work, also having a little bit more of that autonomy and creativity in the day-to-day, being really more like on the ground, working with the folks and having that deep kind of community impact. I'd say that I've done a little bit of everything in this field. So from, events and sponsorships to volunteer management, to major gifts solicitation, to stewardship, and now capital campaign. So that this has been a really fun journey for me. I've been able to apply a lot of the skills that I've learned, but definitely something new and exciting. This capital campaign with the Humane Society, London and Middlesex, is really, really exciting and long overdue, of course, for anyone that is familiar with the shelter.
Yeah.
So I joined the organization just over a year ago to lead a comprehensive $10 million capital campaign to build an animal campus. So it's a really, really exciting project and very needed in the community. So we're really excited to say that we've had wonderful success in the first year of the campaign. We've closed a pretty significant gap, and now we're facing, we're really kind of getting close to the finish line, and we're looking to wrap up our last about $2 million. So really exciting. Yes.
Yeah, it's so funny because I think a lot of folks like hear those numbers and they just feel like astronomical. And it is like often the reality for even like smaller local organizations. Like that's the type of funding that's needed for certain types of projects, particularly capital campaign projects. Do you mind just clarifying for anyone who doesn't know, like what is a capital campaign?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's really a moment where the organization identifies this as a strategic priority in terms of specifically usually around space, right? So for example, the shelter, the animal shelter on Clark Road is, it's over 120 years old. The need was identified. We can no longer continue to renovate or, improve this space. We need to build a new home. So the organization, it's been years in the making, of course, from kind of that approval phase, and then you enter into there's a lot of steps to get ready to kind of go public with a capital campaign. Doing a feasibility study is really important. So understanding who your audience is and who are the folks that are already, who already love and support you. Doing those interviews with folks to understand, are we going to be able to raise enough money to do this, in a responsible way that ensures the stability of the organization going forward as well. So there's a lot of preparation. And then in this case, we went out and designed the building. Our executive director, Steve, went out and fully designed the building based on our needs and based on what was going to best serve our community. Did a lot of market research, traveling to other humane societies to bring home kind of that design. So from there, building out, volunteer teams. Usually there's a campaign cabinet, campaign committees. You want to ensure that you've got all of the media representation on board, because it definitely is something that when you're thinking about these big numbers, you really want the whole community to hopefully support if they're compelled. What we have an advantage, of course, because of the subject matter. There's so many animal lovers out there and people that feel really passionate about animal welfare and know that this is going to improve the lives of so many animals in our community. So all of that to be said, there's typically a quiet phase as well, where you raise some funds and secure some of those really significant major gifts. And then from there, you go public and make that big announcement, have that shovel ceremony, all of that kind of great stuff. And that's where you kind of close the last 40 to 50% of the campaign.
Amazing, thank you. Okay, so, hearing that, and recognizing that, like, for folks listening, that might feel like a big thing. Oftentimes folks share that one of their biggest challenges in starting their social enterprise is that initial startup money. So what are some options if a loan isn't available to them? Like, what are some ways that you've approached fundraising in the past that maybe aren't as big as, like, this big capital campaign, but a little bit more kind of smaller scale for some folks who are just starting out?
Yeah, of course. I think that's such a great question. And yes, like you said, funding is important to everybody, right? So I think it's really, really critical to diversify your funding streams from day one. So thinking that maybe loans might be an option. You've maybe tried that route, but that isn't working at this point. Maybe you need to build a little bit of capital or work with some other partners before you qualify or something like that. So I think it's really important to look at all of the different options that are available to you. Be it maybe government grants, there's some small business grants and things like that out there. They might also be targeted. Women-owned businesses might qualify for some, depending on what your kind of social impact part of your business is. That might align with some funding opportunities as well. Certainly looking at the different grants available through the London Community Foundation, United Way, things like that. Those types of funds are really, really valuable, again, as you need that seed funding to just get going and get off the ground. I think it's really important, as you're thinking about your different audiences, to really make sure that you're crystal clear on your like going back to that business case, right? What you're really, really crystal clear on your value prop and on your that case for support, essentially, especially when you're looking at the impact part of your business. So, what are you trying to communicate with donors? What are you trying? What are the problems that you're trying to solve? And how are you telling that story? Really, one of the most effective ways that we can communicate in fundraising is through storytelling. It's so valuable for people to be able to relate to what you're doing. And I think that when you're looking at your different audiences and looking at these different potential funding sources, your story might be a little bit different. Of course, you have the same kind of mission, but the way that you tell it can be different. So sometimes those, those metrics and outcomes and deliverables might be really valuable to, say, a corporate funder. But that story of how you started your business and why could really resonate with an individual. So I think that that's really important to kind of just really drill down and understand how you're appealing to different folks. I think as well, right now, especially, we have so much great technology available to us, right? I think taking moments to innovate is really important. Using AI as a tool, I think, it can be super valuable to us right now, especially as we're, formulating some of these appeals and cases and that kind of, it can really help provide some of that content. Of course, there's absolutely nothing that beats face-to-face. We're always going to hope for a face-to-face meeting with a potential funder, but that innovation can help you get that meeting, right? So I've really been, I'm obviously dating myself a little bit here, but I'm starting to look into, these tools as, again, help maybe, automate some of our processes, but also how can we help use this as a tool to streamline the work that we're doing, right?
That's such an interesting piece, deviate a little bit, but like the conversation around AI is like, how can we use this, particularly in the social impact and like philanthropic sector? How can we use this to streamline processes that, are tedious and don't necessarily require that like human-centered approach, so that we have more capacity for that relationship building? It's a really interesting conversation that's happening right now. Then there are further conversations of like, how do you do AI ethically and all of those, those things. But really focusing on like, okay, what number crunching can this tool do for me, so that then I can have those numbers to build a story that is like really connecting to like human to human, because there's nothing that really replaces that.
100%. It's so true. And that piece, I think, is really valuable as well when you're thinking about securing some of that early stage funding. Bring your potential funders into that conversation, right? People love to give advice and love to give kind of guidance and that kind of thing. That is really valuable as kind of a foot in the door opportunity. So have those early stage conversations with potential funders and just ask those guiding questions from them. Get their feedback, get what's important to them before you make that ask. I feel like that can be a really great strategy as you're getting started.
And that segues right into the next question, which is like, okay, so you've just named a really useful strategy. What are some other useful strategies that you've found have worked in the past for fundraising? For sure. I think one thing that's continued to work really well for me is always seeking out advice from other folks that are doing similar work to me. So perhaps you're starting a business, maybe there's no one else, in the city here or locally that's doing that type of work exactly, but there's probably some crossover with other social enterprises or other businesses that are doing some kind of similar work. There's all sorts of wonderful networks to tap into, right? But also maybe there's someone doing this work in another province or another country. Getting those information kind of meetings is so valuable. I've used that time and time again, and I've used it a lot in this capital campaign. It's been extremely valuable to me and our organization, and it's really helped us secure some significant funding. So I think, always looking
for that guidance, never being afraid to ask for a little bit of help.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that, right? At any
Yeah.
stage. So I think that that's great. I think I've also had a lot of success with bringing funders into the whole process. So like I said, engaging them from the beginning, but also throughout every stage, kind of as we're working on a partnership, bringing in and learning about what's important to them, right? How can you help help them reach their target market a little bit more effectively? Ensuring that you're staying true to yourself and staying true to your kind of mission of what you're trying to achieve and not overextending. But I think that that's been really, really valuable in terms of having the best possible kind of outcome for both your business and your partners. And then lastly on that point, one thing that worked really well for us with this capital campaign specifically was we sort of reframed our case for support when it came to, again, kind of going back to that, how do you tell your story? So we started to look at the different audiences and the different partners and the different prospects that we were hoping to engage for this project. And we deployed a strategy to focus on how this new animal campus is going to impact people and the community as well as animals.
Right.
That was a game changer for us, and that really helped us secure some significant funds, including from the City of London, who provided a really significant milestone grant for us.
Yeah, I think you and I maybe have chatted about it before, but so often when you think about SPCAs and humane societies, it's like that Sarah McLachlan song over the sad puppies.
Yes, for sure.
And that is like, that does tug at people's heartstrings. Yes. And also we're in like a very different like socio-political climate.
Definitely.
And the recognizing how this can help people as well, I think is, like a really, maybe like not necessarily, like it's not necessarily out of the box, so to speak, but it also is for this type of fundraising in particular.
Yes, definitely. And that was something that really came to us from the funder. So again, engaging them in conversation, them saying that's what's going to resonate here.
Right.
So can you build that in, and how can you demonstrate metrics that are going to impact people as well as the animals? And that was really successful for us. So it was a little bit of that listening and a little bit of that engagement, and working with the funder to find the right balance. And that worked out really well for us.
And I want to go back to that piece around like what's the funder looking for? So beyond just being able to engage with them in that conversation around like what sort of priorities do you share? What are some other just kind of standard things that if you're going into fundraising, this is something that you just want to have already available? I remember I've chatted with folks in the past of not necessarily chasing the money, but really understanding what are your kind of key things? What do you already know about yourself and the organization so that you can find alignment with a donor?
Yes.
So what are some like of those key pieces that an organization just wants to have ready and available to them?
I think that's a great question. I think it's super important to always really stay true to what you're doing. And again, stay true to that mission. One of the things that I've certainly experienced, and I think organizations fall into this because everyone is looking for funding, is to try to shift and kind of twist and move to
make yourself malleable for the funding.
Right, exactly. And I think, yes, we all need funds, no doubt. But I think you can fall into that where you're always recreating the wheel for some new partner. Like it's really, really time consuming. It takes up a lot of your capacity, and you're obviously doing a million other things if you're running a business. So I think getting really clear and strategic on who you are, what you are doing, what's your impact going to be. That is so valuable. And I think once you're meeting with people and having conversations with them, it really is about relationships, no matter who the funder is, right? It's people give to people, and that's super valuable. And so, building relationships with whether it's kind of like a gatekeeper at a corporate organization or whether it's a small organization and you're able to visit them in person and that kind of thing, it's building those relationships is so valuable. And once they get to know you and understand your passion and your excitement, they're going to really hopefully want to come on board, right? Yeah. I think another really important thing, and again, it kind of goes back to looking at your business case, building a really strong infrastructure for your future partnerships. So one of the things that we typically do is you have kind of a portfolio of potential funders. So building out what that pipeline kind of looks like, identifying, okay, what are your financial goals? Like, do you have all of that clear in your business case? What do you need in the next 5 years to be successful? And then from there, one thing we've done with this capital campaign is built like a pyramid, like a gift pyramid. So here's the number of gifts that we need at this level, and the number of prospects, and here at this level, this level. So typically in fundraising, we work with a 1 to 4, or if you're really successful, a 1 to 3 kind of prospect to gift close, right? Yeah. So just knowing that you're going to have a lot of names on this list in order to turn some of them around into some funding is really important, and managing those expectations as well is really important.
I think that's such a good point, because I think it can often feel discouraging if you're new to this and you reach out to 2 people and you either don't get the email back or they say no.
Of course.
And then that can just feel really disheartening, which is totally valid.
100%.
And it's really good to hear that, it's no, for every 4 people that you reach out to, maybe 1
exactly
is going to be able to contribute, and you don't even know how much that's going to be. And
for sure, you might have it in your mind, and I think that's part of again, doing that research, spending a little bit of that time of how much did they invest in that other company, or how much, right? So trying to understand what you are looking for from them, but also it might not come back with that full amount. Yeah. So okay, so readjust, and then we'll go and go to this other prospect.
Yeah.
I think especially when it comes to your own business, it's so personal. It's so personal, right? Yeah. So I understand that. I think trying not to take everything too personally is a huge challenge. Yeah. But just knowing that this is a landscape, and a lot of funders right now. I'm thinking specifically more around the corporate space. They've got pre-prescribed pillars of giving. Yeah. Or they have a corporate social responsibility mandate, and that falls into, say environment or youth, or right. So this has been now really well developed, and so you'll know if you align with a lot of those folks, right? So that's a little bit more clear cut. I think it can. There's more flexibility with different types of funders and individuals and different types of businesses, maybe small businesses.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And one thing that I often hear about fundraising that it can feel, for a lack of a better word, kind of icky, to ask for money. So I feel that comes from that more transactional approach. And we've talked about this a little bit, but what are some of the ways that you've tried engaging with donors and funders that allow for that deeper connection, like those face-to-face conversations, or finding that value alignment?
Exactly. I hear that. Even as a lifelong fundraiser, I still I try to avoid over asking my friends and family. I feel that way as well. But I think that what we really are doing is making an impact, and finding those strategic partnerships that can have this really great community outcomes are so valuable, and ultimately we're helping make the world a better place. And so at the end of the day, it doesn't have to feel icky when you're approaching it from that perspective, when you're saying, how can we find those value alignments? How can we strategically partner to have this mutually beneficial outcome for your business, for the community, et cetera? So I think yes, again, bringing the partners into the fold. Some of the things that have worked really well, and I'm thinking more specifically about like programming funding, but having the partners kind of co-create with you. That's been a really fun process. Again, within the realm of what you're trying to achieve within your capacity. But if you can involve them in that process, I find that's been a really great way specifically to see awesome outcomes in programming. And then they're super happy, right? They're really engaged. I think another piece too, once you are able to secure some of the funding, these people are now your partners. They are partners in your business. They are part of your family, right? So it's not just like, oh, thank you very much. Done now. We've got the money.
They have more than just the financial investment. They have like that emotional connection too.
Exactly. So I think that is something that cannot be overstated, is that stewardship piece. It's, continuing to keep them updated, continuing to invite them to events, product launches, whatever you're doing with your business is really important to keep these folks, especially as you're starting out, as part of in the fold and as part of your kind of your family. That piece, I think, is something that it's easy to kind of forget when you're always looking for new funds. But I think just staying on top of that piece is really valuable, because then those folks are more likely to invest again in the future.
Right. Amazing. And then as we're just sort of wrapping up, can you share more about where folks can find out information about you, Humane Society London and Middlesex, and the work that you're doing right now?
Yeah, of course. Really everything kind of lives on our website, so hslm.ca. The campaign is called New Home, New Hope. So that's all within the different menus there. We've built out some really beautiful marketing that you can kind of find as you navigate through. I'm also really excited to connect with people who are making an impact, and always open to conversations and how I might be helpful, especially in these early stages, right? I know there's a lot of competition out there for dollars right now. The economic climate is challenging, so I get it. So my email is lmcdermott@hslm.ca. Very happy to share information and connect anytime.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Lindsay. It is truly always just like so lovely to chat with you, whether here on this set or just in our favorite coffee shop. I'm really, really grateful for everything that you've shared, and thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Thank you once again to Lindsay for joining us today. If you would like to find out more about Pillar Nonprofit Network and the work that we're doing here, you can head on over to pillarnonprofit.ca. If you'd like to learn more about the Humane Society London and Middlesex, you can head on to their website at hslm.ca. There you can donate to their capital campaign for the new space, or who knows, even maybe find a furry new pal. Once again, I am your host, your guide, your business bud, Miriam Luigi, and this has been Pollinating Purpose, a caring approach to business. Thank you for coming along for the ride. I'm glad that you're here.
Pollinating Purpose, a caring approach to business. Welcome, everybody!